Hare Krishna, somebody can please lead the invocation prayers.
Can I do, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Om Jnanatiparamdarshya Jnananjalashalakaya Satguru Anmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manovishyam Stapinam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamayam Tatandishva Padandikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yudapadakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Gana Raghunanta Pidam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadudam Parijana Sakitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Saguna Lalitam Sri Vishanka Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpade Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धु एव च पतितानां पावनेषु वैष्णव्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming to read and discuss Srila Prabhupada and Krishna's instructions. And thank you in advance for applying these instructions in your respective lives. So today, first, I will answer inquiries submitted by devotees and also bring up striking points on screen, and then we'll continue Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Verse 7 onwards. So, question 1 says, if Priyavrata divided the universe into 7 islands, the whole universe should have Indians only. Then why are there these white people, Japanese, Chinese, Koreans, and etc. all over? The answer is due to Jiva's desire to lord it over the modes of material nature. All these various religions and various countries all over the world have sprouted. Therefore, there are thousands of religions, so many countries, and very frequently we hear that the existing countries are also getting further divided. Why? Because everybody wants to enjoy by themselves. Everybody is in the I, me, mine concept that this belongs to me. And therefore they divide and then they create their own religion, and down the line it becomes a whole country and the residents of that country. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes.
Prabhuji, logically it is right.
All right. The next question. How does obedience to the will of the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master transcend personal preference and renunciation? So Srila Prabhupada was one time asked this almost identical question. Srila Prabhupada was asked whether Srila Prabhupada's activities are pure, meaning, is Srila Prabhupada a pure devotee? Now, although Srila Prabhupada is always a pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada replied with utmost humility that Srila Prabhupada is not a pure devotee. But because Srila Prabhupada is following the instructions of the supremely liberated Lord Shri Krishna and Krishna's pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, therefore, Srila Prabhupada's activities are aligned with the Supreme Lord, and therefore Srila Prabhupada's activities are also pure. So Srila Prabhupada is referring to Srimad Bhagavatam 4.18.5 on the difference between conditioned soul and liberated person. That if a conditioned soul follows the supreme liberated personality of Godhead, his actions are naturally liberated from the contamination of material nature. So let's read Bhagavatam 4.18.5 translation and purport I have on the screen. Shivangi, 4.18.5 translation purport.
Hare Krishna. A foolish person who manufactures his own ways and means through mental speculation and does not recognize the authority of the sages who laid down unimpeachable directions is simply unsuccessful again and again in his attempts. At the present moment, it has become fashionable to disobey the unimpeachable directions given by the acharyas and liberated souls of the past. Presently, people are so fallen that they cannot distinguish between a liberated soul and a conditioned soul. A conditioned soul is hampered by 4 defects. He is sure to commit mistakes. He is sure to become disillusioned. He has a tendency to cheat others, and his senses are imperfect. Consequently, we have to take direction from liberated persons. This Krishna consciousness movement directly receives instructions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we are persons who are strictly following his instructions. Although a follower may not be a liberated person, if he follows the Supreme Liberated Personality of Godhead, his actions are naturally liberated from the contamination of the material nature. Lord Chaitanya therefore says, by my order, you may become a spiritual master. One can immediately become a spiritual master by having full faith in the transcendental words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and by following his instructions. Realistic men are not interested in taking directions from a liberated person, but they are very much interested in their own concocted ideas, which make them repeatedly fail in their attempts. Because the entire world is now following the imperfect directions of conditioned souls, humanity is completely bewildered. Hare Krishna.
Right, so the conditioned souls has 4 defects. So how can he be perfect? It's not possible. And therefore Prabhupada gives the solution that although person may not be liberated, but if he follows the instruction of the Supreme Liberated Personality of Godhead, as well as the pure devotee, spiritual master, then the conditioned soul's activities are liberated from the contamination of material nature. Does that answer the very important inquiry?
Thank you, Prabhuji. I'm really understood the meaning now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for continuing to shower your mercy on me by asking the inquiries so that I can do the research and speak Krishna Katha. Thank you. Next are these tracking points. You have 5 slides. This is slide number 1. Take a snapshot. Slide 2. Slide 3. Four, and 5. So these slides are a very good comparison. I request all of you to go over the slides. If we go back to the first slide of tracking points, the whole slide is there on one topic or on one of the question. And you can compare how other devotees have said the same point in a very concise manner. And if you look at, say, for example, this slide 4 and slide 5, they are on the 2 kinds of impediments. If you go back to slide 2, devotees have said the same thing in a very concise manner. So this is how we should be able to speak in a concise manner. When we have to preach, we have to recognize that people don't have spiritual taste. They are not interested in listening to our long story, no matter how right it is. So we should be bang to the point of what message we have to give. So one time, I was at a book distribution at the Don Mills subway station. Ramya from the other batch was also there. Few other devotees were also there. So it's a subway station, and devotees, not devotees, but materialistic people are just running, parking their car and running to catch a train. So one person stopped for like 5 seconds and asked a question about demigods, but then did not have time to listen to the answer. So I said, I will walk with you to by the time you catch the train, and I will explain. But this person was not walking, this person was running. Everybody in the material world is running. So I was also running with this person, and I was trying to explain why demigod worship is not to be done and why Krishna. I literally had 30 seconds or less. So if I end up talking like how we have slide number 1 or some of the other slides, that person is not interested. So we should be it should be striking points that what essentially they should focus on. So to that person, I said, when you get time to read Bhagavad Gita, read 9.23, that this is Avidi Purvakam, done in a wrong way. Read the last line, that Krishna does not approve demigod worship. They are all like leaves. If you just water the root, which is Krishna, the leaves get nourished automatically. That's about the time I had to explain while running with this. I was literally running. So that's what we should do. That's what we should try to learn. Therefore, I put everybody's points on the slide. They are all repeated points, but we have to learn to have it in a concise manner. Everybody can please try I got silence, all right.
Yes, Prabhuji, we will do.
Yes, Prabhuji.
In a nutshell, you want it like Prissy writing, concise.
Correct. Thank you, everybody. So we'll continue from Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, verse 7 onwards. The context is Parikshit Maharaj was amazed that King Priyavrata remained in household life because the essence of household life is sense enjoyment. And as long as one is engrossed his mind in working hard for sense enjoyment, one becomes bound by reaction of fruitive activities. And therefore, Sukadeva Goswami responds that why Priyavrata continued household life is because devotee has no attraction for household life. Devotee speaks to his wife with affectionate words, but he is not attached to the wife. Priyavrata's father, Swayambhava Manu, asked Priyavrata to take charge of the kingdom because Priyavrata has all the required qualities. Therefore, Priyavrata took this responsibility. Now, Priyavrata's reluctance is that being absorbed in bhakti yoga and engaging in senses is in Lord's services. Priyavrata considered taking up responsibility of kingdom can divert him from devotional service. And although this is superior's order, which cannot be refused, still Priyavrata did not welcome this responsibility, but still Priyavrata goes on to take the responsibility because he cannot disobey the superior. And therefore, now Brahmaji arrives to the scene to convince Priyavrata. So there are a lot of heavy discussions, a lot of heavy learnings in these sections, in this chapter 1 also. So part 3 is verses 7 to 10, Lord Brahmaji's arrival. So verses 7, 8, 9 are straightforward on the praise and reception of Brahmaji. Mother Jija, 7, 8, 9 translations.
Text 7, translation. Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued. The first created being and most powerful demigod in this universe is Lord Brahma, who is always responsible for developing universal affairs. Born directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he dedicates his activities to the welfare of the entire universe, for he knows the purpose of the universal creation. This supremely powerful Lord Brahma, accompanied by his associates and personified Vedas, left his own abode in the highest planetary system and descended to the place of Prince Priyavrata's meditation. Text 8. As Lord Brahma descended on his carrier, the great swan, all the residents of the planets named Siddhaloka, Gandharvaloka, Sadhyaloka, and Charanaloka, as well as great sages and demigods, flying in the different aeroplanes, of the sky, to receive Brahma and worship him. As he received respect and adoration from the residents of the various planets, Lord Brahma appeared just as the full moon surrounded by illuminating stars. Lord Brahma, great swan, then arrived at the border on Gandhamadhana hills and approached Prince Priyavrata, who was sitting there. Text 9. Lord Brahma, the father of Narada Muni, is the supreme person within this universe. As soon as Narada saw the great one, he could understand that Lord Brahma had arrived. Therefore, he immediately stood up along with Swayambhuva Manu and his son Devrata, whom Narada was instructing. Then they folded their hands and began to worship Lord Brahma with great respect. Hare Krishna.
So, great personalities such as demigods like Brahmaji, Srila Narada Muni, Lord Shiva, are all addressed as Bhagwan because these personalities carry out the purpose of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they carry the Supreme Personality of Godhead in their heart. So Bhagwan is one who possesses all opulences, so which is Krishna. And these personalities, Brahmaji, Srila Narada Muni, Shiva, are also addressed as Bhagwan because they carry the Bhagwan in their heart and they execute the plan of the Lord. So these verses are straightforward in terms of giving respects when superior comes or when spiritual master comes, that get up, offer obeisances, give them a higher seat. And that's what all are following when Brahmaji arrives. Verse 10 describes Brahmaji's compassion and real purpose of coming to meet Priyavrata. So it's very important. What's his real purpose? So actually, Brahmaji had come to praise Priyavrata for his high standard of renunciation, austerity, penance, and devotion, so that Priyavrata would not be deviated from devotional service, even though Priyavrata would accept household life. Although Brahmaji is going to request Priyavrata to accept household life, but Priyavrata would not be out of touch with devotional service. And this is known as Kripa Siddhi, means perfection attained by blessings of the superior. So we have discussed this blessing in nectar of devotion. Let's first read verse 10, translation and purport. Chandran Prabhu, 10, translation and purport.
Hare Krishna. Text 10, translation. My dear King Parikshit, because Lord Brahma had finally descended from Satyaloka to Bhuloka, Narada Muni, Prince Priyavrata, and Swayambhuva Manu came forward to offer him objects of worship and to praise him in highly qualified language, according to Vedic etiquette. At that time, Lord Brahma, the original person of this universe, felt compassion for Priyavrata and, looking upon him with a smiling face, spoke to him as follows. Purport. The Lord Brahma descended from Satyaloka to see Priyavrata indicates that the matter was very serious. Narada Muni had come to advise Priyavrata about the value of spiritual life, knowledge, renunciation, and bhakti. And Lord Brahma knew that Narada's instructions were very impressive. Therefore, unless Lord Brahma personally went to Gandhamarana hill to request Priyavrata, Lord Brahma knew that Prince Priyavrata would not accept his father's order. Brahma's purpose was to break Priyavrata's determination. Therefore, Brahma first looked upon Priyavrata with compassion. His smile and compassionate features also indicated that although Brahma would request Priyavrata to accept household life, Priyavrata would not be out of touch with devotional service. By the blessings of a Vaishnava, everything is possible. This is described as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as Kripa Siddhi, or perfection attained simply by the blessings of a superior person. One usually becomes liberated and perfect by executing the regulative principles set down in the Shastras. Nonetheless, many persons have achieved perfection simply by the blessings of a spiritual master or superior. Priyavrata was the grandson of Lord Brahma, and as joking competition sometimes takes place between grandson and grandfather, in this case also Priyavrata was determined to remain in meditation, whereas Brahma was determined that he ruled the universe. Thus Lord Brahma's affectionate smile and glance meant, "My dear Priyavrata, you have decided not to accept household life, but I have decided to convince you that you must accept it." Actually, Brahma had come to praise Priyavrata for his high standard of renunciation, austerity, penance, and devotion, so that he would not be deviated from devotional service, even though he would accept household life. In this verse, one important word is Sukta Vakena by Vedic hymns. In the Vedas, there is the following prayer to Lord Brahma: Hiranya Garbha Samavarta Tagre Bhutasya Jatan Patir Ek Asit. Brahma was received with the appropriate Vedic hymns, and because he was welcomed according to the Vedic etiquette, he was very pleased. Hare Krishna.
So what's Brahmaji's purpose in personally going to Gandhamadam hill? Brahmaji descended to see Priyavrata indicates that the matter was very serious. Srila Narada Muni had come to advise Priyavrata about spiritual life, knowledge, renunciation, and bhakti. And Brahmaji knows that Srila Narada Muni's instructions are very impressive. And now Brahmaji is going to ask Priyavrata to take household life. So Priyavrata is having a dilemma here because these two are opposite. So therefore it's a serious matter, and we'll soon come to the dilemma point and discuss that also. So Brahmaji's smile and compassionate indicates that although Brahmaji is going to request Priyavrata to accept household life, but Priyavrata would not be out of touch with devotional service. So this is Kripa Siddhi, showered on Priyavrata by Brahmaji, means perfection attained simply by blessings of superior person. Brahmaji has actually come to praise Priyavrata for his high standard of renunciation, austerity, penance, and devotion, so that he is not going to be deviated from devotional service, even though Brahmaji would convince Priyavrata to accept household life. Questions, comments, realizations?
Prabhuji, when we were reading 5.1.1. I was wondering, and I was in a dilemma, that Brahmaji is coming and asking a pure devotee to continue with the household life. But now the verse 10 answers that dilemma, that Kripa Siddhi, by which perfection is attained by the blessings of superior person. There is some significant reason, because he is carrying in the heart the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I perceive that the desire of Supreme Personality God, which is enforced by Brahmaji, the first son. That is my humble submission.
Yeah, you are correct that Priyavrata is Paramhamsa. Therefore, household life will not bind him. And that dilemma point, hold your thought, that dilemma is still going to come, because I'm going to ask you a question on the dilemma, and we'll bring that dilemma back into picture again. That dilemma is still going to be there in Priyavrata's mind, that whose instruction will he follow? Because both are superior to him. Srila Narada Muni is spiritual master, and Brahmaji and Swayambhu Manu are his father and grandfather are also superior to him. And Brahmaji is, of course, head spiritual master. So these opposing instructions, what will he do? So hold your thought. Whatever you realized is correct, but there's further discussion coming up on that. Uncle?
Thank you, Prabhu.
So now is part 4, verses 11 to 19. Brahmaji's reasons to convince Priyavrata. So Brahmaji gives 9 reasons. So I will first give you these reasons of Brahmaji. You can make a note, and then we will read each verse or series of verses to further solidify our understanding on these. So make a note of these 9 reasons that Brahmaji is going to give to convince Priyavrata take up household responsibilities. Number 1 comes from verse 11. Lord's order is undeniable by anyone. Number 2 from verse 12. Lord's order is unavoidable by all means. Number 3, verse 13. Jiva dependent on the Lord. Under Lord's order, Jiva accepts body. Number 4, verse 14. All must obey Lord's orders in form of varna and ashram. Number 5, verse 15. Accept with faith whatever Lord gives us. Number 6, verse 16. Even liberated person accepts body he has received is just that a liberated person is not attached. Number 7, verse 17. Self-controlled are unaffected by harmful household life. Number 8, verse 18. In household life, one who conquers his mind and senses is like king in fortress who conquers all enemies. Number 9, verse 19. Seek shelter in Lord's lotus feet and thus conquer the senses. Everybody got all the 9 points?
The senses.
All right, Uncle will read verse 11 and 12 translation. So the first reason in verse 11, Brahmaji says, Lord's order is undeniable by anyone. And verse 12, reason is Lord's order is unavoidable by all means. Uncle, 11, 12.
Hare Krishna. Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Text 11. Lord Brahma, the Supreme Person within this universe, said, My dear Priyavrata, kindly hear attentively what I shall say to you. Do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord, who is beyond our experimental measurements. All of us, including Lord Shiva, your father and the great sage Maharishi Narada, must carry out the order of the Supreme. We cannot deviate from his order. Text 12. One cannot avoid the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not by the strength of severe austerities, an exalted Vedic education, or the power of mystic yoga, physical prowess, or intellectual activities. Nor can one use his power of religion, his material opulence, or any other means, either by himself or with the help of others, to defy the orders of the Supreme Lord. This is not possible for any living being, from Brahma to the ant. Hare Krishna.
So straightforward reasons. And then in verse number 13, 14, and 15, these verses explain Jiva's dependence on Lord's order. So verse 13 reason is Jiva dependent on the Lord. Under Lord's order, Jiva accepts body. Verse 14 says all must obey Lord's order in form of Varna and Ashram. And 15 says, accept with faith whatever Lord gives us. Uncle, 13, 14, 15.
Hare Krishna. Text 13. My dear Priyavrata, by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all living entities accept different types of bodies of birth and death, activity, lamentation, illusion, fear of future dangers, and happiness and distress. Text 14. My dear boy, all of us are bound by the Vedic injunctions to the division of the Varnashrama according to our qualities and work. These divisions are difficult to avoid because they are scientifically arranged. We must therefore carry out our duties of Varnashrama Dharma like bulls obliged to move according to the direction of a driver pulling on ropes knotted to their noses. Text 15. My dear Priyavrata, according to our association with the different modes of material nature, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives us our specific bodies and the happiness and distress we achieve. One must therefore remain situated as he is and be conducted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, exactly as a blind man is led by a person who has eyes with which to see. Hare Krishna.
So, verse number 14 has an analogy. That example is cited in verse 14 that bulls tied by ropes in their nostrils move according to the direction of the driver. Similarly, if we move according to the instructions of the Vedas, the perfect paths for our lives will be set. Bhagavad Gita chapter 16 verse 23-24 says Shastram Vidim, that follow the do's and don'ts according to scriptures. If we do not live according to scripture, we will never achieve success in life. Questions, comments, realizations so far? Verse 16, the reason is, number 6 is that even liberated person accepts body he has received. It's just that the liberated person is not attached. Mother Chandra Aunty, 16 translation.
Text 16, translation. Even if one is liberated, he nevertheless accepts the body he has received according to his past karma. Without misconceptions, however, he records his enjoyment and sufferings due to the karma, the way an awakened person regards a dream he had while sleeping. He thus remains steadfast and never works to achieve another material body under the influence of the three moods of material nature. Hare Krishna.
Now, Priyavrata may say that household life is harmful. Therefore, Brahmaji speaks verses 17, 18, and 19. So verse 17, seventh reason is that self-controlled are unaffected by harmful household life. Verse 18, eighth reason is in household life, one who conquers his mind and senses is like a king in fortress who conquers all enemies. And verse 19, ninth reason is, therefore seeks shelter at Lord's lotus feet and thus conquer the senses. Mother Chandra Aunty, 17, 18, 19 translations.
Text 17, translation. Even if he goes from forest to forest, one who is not self-controlled must always fear material bondage because he is living with 6 co-wives, the mind and knowledge acquiring senses. Even householder's life, however, cannot harm a self-satisfied, learned man who has conquered his senses. Text 18, translation. One who is situated in household life and who systematically conquer his mind and 5 sense organs is like a king in his fortress who conquers his powerful enemies. After one has been trained in household life and his lusty desires have decreased, he can move anywhere without danger. Text 19, translation. Lord Brahma continued, My dear Priyavrata, seek shelter inside the opening in the lotus feet of the Lord, whose navel is always like a lotus. Thus conquer the 6 sense organs, the mind, the knowledge, acquiring senses. Accept material enjoyment because the Lord extraordinarily has ordered you to do this. You will thus always be liberated from material association and be able to carry out the Lord's order in your constitutional position. Hare Krishna.
So in verse number 18, an analogy is given that householder who has conquered mind and senses is like a king in the fortress. Meaning, when householder is trained to curb his lusty desires, he can then move anywhere without danger. And if one does not have his mind and senses in control, he may go live in the forest by artificially taking the renounced order. He will still be living with 6 wives while he is alone in the forest. The 6 wives are the mind and the senses, and he will still generate karmic reaction. We have discussed this in Bhagavad Gita 4.16, 17, 18, the karma discussion. Questions, comments, realizations?
Prabhuji, would you please elaborate? Let's go 6 with 6 co-wives. In what context it is? Can you elaborate on that? I'm not understanding.
Yeah, so in the material world, generally everyone has 1 wife, and they get fruitive entanglement because of wife, children, house. That when you have wife, you need a house, you need bank balance, you need this, you need that. Means you are having desires, and to fulfill those desires, you are engaging in fruitive activities and creating karma. So when somebody goes to forest without purified mind and senses, thinking that he is going away, well, he's not going away, because with that contemplation of the senses, he is generating karmic reaction. And this is what we have discussed in Bhagavad Gita 4.16, 17, 18, the karma discussion, that Arjuna fighting war killing so many is akarma, generating no reaction. And somebody going to forest alone, he is still generating reaction simply by contemplating on the senses. Therefore, he is living with his 6 wives in the forest. Uncle, everybody on the same page?
Yes, I am clear, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Everybody on the same page for the various reasons Brahmaji gave?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So, Priyavrata is still in dilemma that Srila Narada Muni is his spiritual master, and Srila Narada Muni has given him instruction to take up bhakti, to take up renunciation, and follow devotional path. And on the other hand, Brahmaji is his grandfather, Swayambha Manu his father. So all of them, Srila Narada Muni and Brahmaji and Swayambha Manu, are authorities. So whose order to follow and whose order to reject? Because these are opposing orders. Srila Narada Muni, as spiritual master, has given the instruction to follow path of bhakti, renounce everything, while Brahmaji is giving the order to take up family responsibility and kingdom responsibility. So whose order to follow and whose order to reject? And the answer is given in verse number 12 purport. We'll soon read that do not reject orders of both Srila Narada Muni and Brahmaji. Rather, by intelligence, follow both of them and dovetail everything in Krishna's service. That way, you will satisfy Brahmaji that you are getting married, you are having the kingdom responsibility. But because you have dovetailed everything in Krishna's service, then you are still detached. You are still following Bhakti Yoga, which is Srila Narada Muni's instruction. Sridhar Prabhu, are you able to read Canto 5, Chapter 1, Verse 12 purport?
Hare Krishna. In the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 3.8.9, Yajnavalkya says to Gargi, the daughter of Gargamuni, Etasya va aksharasya prashasane Gargi Surya Chandramasau Vidritau Tishtataha. My dear Gargi, everything is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the sun, the moon, and other controllers and demigods like Lord Brahma and King Indra are all under his control. An ordinary human being or animal who has accepted a material body cannot go beyond the jurisdiction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's control. A material body includes senses. However, the sense activities of so-called scientists who try to be free from God's laws or the laws of nature are useless. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.14. Nama Maya Duratyaya. It is impossible to surpass the control of material nature, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is working behind it. Sometimes we are proud of our austerities, penances, and mystic yoga powers. But it is clearly stated herein that one cannot surpass the laws and directions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. either by dint of mystic power or scientific education or austerities and penances. It is impossible. The word Manishaya, by intelligence, is of specific significance. Priyavrata might argue that Lord Brahma was requesting him to accept family life and the responsibility for ruling a kingdom, although Narada Muni has advised him not to enter household life and be entangled in material affairs. Whom to accept would be a puzzle for Priyavrata because both Lord Brahma and Narada Muni are authorities. Under the circumstances, the use of the word Manishaya is very appropriate, for it indicates that since both Narada Muni and Lord Brahma are authorized to give instruction, Priyavrata should neglect neither of them, but should use his intelligence to follow the advice of both. To solve such dilemmas, Srila Rupa Goswami has given a very clear conception of intelligence. He says, Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatarham Upayunjitaha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. Vishayan, material affairs should be accepted without attachment and everything should be dovetailed with the service of the Lord. That is real intelligence, Manisha. Becoming a family man or king in the material world is not harmful. If one accepts everything for Krishna's service, that necessitates clear intelligence. Mayavadi philosophers say, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. This material world is false and only the absolute truth is real. However, an intelligent devotee in the line of Lord Brahma and the great sage Narada, or in other words, in the Brahma Sampradaya, does not consider this world false. That which is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be false, but using it for enjoyment is. Everything is meant to be enjoyed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 5.29. Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is a supreme proprietor and enjoyer, and therefore everything should be dovetailed for his enjoyment and service. Regardless of one's circumstances, favorable or unfavorable, one should use everything to serve the Supreme Lord. That is a perfect way to use one's intelligence. Hare Krishna.
Right, so Priyavrata is thinking and having this dilemma that Brahmaji is requesting to accept family life, while Narad Muni has advised him not to enter household life to avoid entanglement. So whom to accept is a puzzle, because both Srila Narad Muni and Brahmaji are authorized to give instructions, and therefore Priyavrata should neglect neither of them. Rather, Priyavrata should use his intelligence to follow the advice of both. And to solve the problem, Srila Rupa Goswami has given the clear conception of intelligence that material affairs should be accepted without attachment, and everything should be dovetailed to service of the Lord. This is real intelligence, Manisha. This is Yukta Vairagyam. So the verse that we read in the purport is Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate. So becoming a family man or taking up kingdom responsibility in the material world is not harmful if one accepts everything for Krishna's service. Questions, comments, realizations? All right, so now part 5 is verses 20 to 22. Priyavrata accepts Lord Brahmaji's request. Dipanshu Prabhu, Canto 5, Chapter 1, verses 20, 21, 22 translations.
Hare Krishna Guruji. Which chapter?
Canto 5, Chapter 1, verse 20, 21, 22.
Sukdev Goswami continued. After thus being fully instructed by Lord Brahma, who is the spiritual master of the three worlds, Priyavrat, his own position being inferior, offered obeisances, accepted the order and carried it out with the great respect. Purport also, Prabhuji?
Just translations.
Lord Brahma was then worshipped by Manu, who respectfully satisfied him as well as he could. Priyavrat and Narad also looked upon Brahma with no tinges of resentment. Having engaged Priyavrat in accepting his father's request, Lord Brahma returned to his abode Satyaloka, which is indescribable by the endeavor of mundane mind or words. Text 23, 22. Swayambhu Manu, with the assistance of Lord Brahma, thus fulfilled his desires. With the permission of the great sage Narada, he delivered to his son the governmental responsibilities for maintaining and protecting all the planets of the universe. He thus achieved relief from the most dangerous, poisonous ocean of material desires.
So, verse number 22 purport compares historical, exemplary, responsible monarchs perform the duties of government with disinterest, keeping themselves always aloof from the contamination of material attachment. So just visualize that here Priyavrata is being persuaded by Lord Brahmaji to accept the post of the emperor of entire universe, not a small city or a small province. No, entire universe. They have to be try to convince him. While at present in the material world, politicians are very eager to take charge of government and they engage their men in canvassing from door to door to get votes to win the post of a president or a similar, whatever exalted office post that they are running for. There's a vast difference because back then the monarchs were there for service. They did not have their personal interest. While today, all politicians are taking up the post for their personal interest. Dipanshu, verse 22 purport.
Swayambhu Manu was practically hopeless because such a great personality as Narada was instructing his son Priyavrat not to accept household life. Now he was very pleased that Lord Brahma had interfered by inducing his son to accept the responsibility for ruling the government of the universe. From Bhagavad Gita, we get information that Vivasvat Manu was the son of the sun god and that his son Maharaj Ishvaku ruled this planet Earth. Swayambhu Manu, however, appears to have been in charge of the entire universe, and he entrusted to his son, Maharaj Priyavrat, the responsibility for maintaining and protecting all the planetary systems. Dharamandala means planet. This earth, for instance, is called Dharamandala. Akhila, however, means all or universal. It is therefore difficult to understand where Maharaj Priyavrat was situated. But from this literature, his position certainly appears greater than that of Vivasvat Manu, for he was entrusted with all the planetary systems of the entire universe. Another significant statement is that Swayambhu Manu took great satisfaction from abnegating the responsibility for ruling all the planetary systems of the universe. At present, politicians are very eager to take charge of the government, and they engage their men in canvassing from door to door to get votes to win the post of president or a similar exalted office. On the contrary, however, herein we find the king Priyavrat had to be persuaded by Lord Brahma to accept the post of emperor of the entire universe. Similarly, his father Swayambhu Manu felt relieved to entrust the universal government to Priyavrat. Thus, it is evident that the king and executive heads of government in the Vedic age never accepted their positions for sense enjoyment. Such exalted kings, who were known as Rajarshis, ruled only to maintain and protect the kingdom for the welfare of the citizens. The history of Priyavrat and Swayambhu Manu describes how exemplary, responsible monarchs performed the duties of government with disinterest, keeping themselves away, always aloof from the contamination of material attachment. Material affairs have herein been compared to an ocean of poison. They have been described in a similar way by Srila Narottam Das Thakur in one of his songs. Samsara Vishanale Diva Nishiya Jole Judaite na Kainu Upaya. My heart is always burning in the fire of material existence, and I have no provisions for getting out of it. Golokera Premdan Hari Nam Sankirtan Rati na Janmila Kene Taya. The only remedy in Hari Nam Sankirtan, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is imported from the spiritual word Golokitama. How unfortunate I am that I have no attraction for this. Manu wanted to seek shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, and therefore, when his son Priyavrat took charge of his worldly affairs, Manu was very relieved. That is the system of Vedic civilization. At the end of life, one must free himself from worldly affairs and completely engage in the service of the Lord. The word Surashi Vara Anumatena is also significant. Manu entrusted the government to his son with the permission of the great Saint Narada. This is particularly mentioned because although Narada wanted Priyavrat to become free from all material affairs, when Priyavrat took charge of the universe by the request of Lord Brahma and Manu, Narada was also very pleased. Hare Krishna.
Questions, comments, realizations?
This verse, Swayambhu was also confused, but he was satisfied because of intervention of Brahmaji. Am I right, Prabhuji?
Correct. So the instruction that Brahmaji gave to Priyavrata are for us also, right? Spiritual master will give us instructions. So we have to take instructions from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. We have discussed this in Bhagavad Gita chapter 1. So these are instructions for us also, that as much as is possible, try to dovetail your entire life in Krishna's service, and then you will not be entangled, even though we live in a Grahastha life, although it's work in progress for me also. All right, so the last two parts are straightforward. We'll cover in subsequent classes. So part 6 explains about Priyavrata's rule, marriage, descendants, and wonderful activities. And then part 7 is about Priyavrata's repentance and renunciation. Right now, I will give you spiritual endeavor questions. You have quite few. Question 1. Explain Brahmaji's purpose in personally going to Gandha Madana Hill. Comes from verse number 10. Number 2, list reasons Brahmaji gives to persuade Priyavrata to govern the universe, from verses 11 to 19. Number 3, explain Priyavrata's dilemma, from verse 12. Analogy, so number 4 is analogy from 5.1.14. example cited is that bulls tied by ropes in their nostrils move according to the direction of the driver. Similarly, if we move according to instructions of the Vedas, the perfect paths for our lives will be set. And for next class, read Canto 5, Chapter 2. Questions, comments, realizations? All right, we are
Prabhuji, this analogy, which verse you want us to refer? Would you please tell?
5.1.
question.
Yeah, analogy is from 5.1.14.
Thank you.
All right, we'll stop here. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.